out front tonight, Putin surrounding Ukraine with nuclear weapons. The Russian president declaring today he now has nukes on standby in Belarus, which is where Putin launched his invasion of Ukraine from more than a year ago.
The first nuclear warheads have been delivered to the territory of Belarus, but just the first ones. This is the first batch. The use of nuclear weapons undoubtedly is theoretically possible for Russia. For Russia, it is possible if there is a threat to our territorial integrity, independence, and sovereignty, to the existence of the Russian state.
And Putin didn't stop there. He went on to brag about the sheer number of nukes that Russia has, with some choice words for NATO.
We have more of these weapons than NATO countries do. They know that, and they keep telling us to start negotiations on reductions. Well, you know what? They can shove it.
Putin does have the largest stockpile, about 4,200 ICBM nuclear warheads, in addition to his estimated nearly 2,000 tactical nuclear weapons. Chilling comments by Putin, who maintains Ukraine is failing on the battleground, a claim at odds with what we're seeing. This is new video of Ukraine's special forces taking out what is said to be Russian positions near Bakhmut. And in Kyiv, Ukraine says it was able to take down 12 Russian missiles overnight. Out front now, retired Army Lieutenant General Mark Hertling, former commanding general of Europe and the 7th Army. And we also have Steve Hall, former CIA chief of Russia operations, with us this evening. General Hertling, you just heard Putin there. He's saying he can destroy any building in Kyiv if he wanted. But you heard Matthew fact-check that as well. He also said today about Ukraine they have suffered large losses, 10 times more than the Russian army, and that's a fact. I mean, is any of that true?
Brianna, you know, one thing that I think all of us have come to understand since this war started is a thing that's become a universal truth. Mr. Putin has proven himself to be a lying liar who lies a lot. Gaslighting, misinformation, what the Russians call maskirovka, it accompanies every type of their operation. Now, when you take a look at the truth on the ground, no, Ukrainian forces have not lost 10 times as much as Russia. We know, or as much as Russia. We already know that to be true. And no, Mr. Putin has not been able to conduct successful multiple missile attacks against the capital in Kyiv. So these are just lies. And they're unfortunate because he has a small group of people who are believing that, but the rest of the world knows who he is.
Yeah, Steve, he's doing this for an audience or audiences that are disinclined to believe fact checks of it, right? Or disinclined to believe, say, American fact checks of it. And some of those folks are going to be the Russian public. By and large, are they believing what he is saying?
Yeah, Brian, I think Mark's got it exactly right. I mean, this Maskarovka and the other types of, technical things that the Kremlin does to try to spin things, to do propaganda operations, psychological operations. Most of us out here in the West, we see this for what it is. Are we really going to believe, as Vladimir Putin said a couple of days ago, well, thank goodness for this war because it taught us how to improve, the Russian military, or we can hit anything in Kiev anytime we want to. We know that to be garbage. Unfortunately, inside of Russia, where Putin controls 90% of what most Russians see, he finds an easier audience for that. But the interesting thing for me in all this, Brian, is like Mark said, we see all of this layer upon layer of propaganda. But every once in a while, you'll see a blip. You'll see Putin say something like, well, yeah, our army could have done better. We could have improvements. And whenever you see a blip like that, it's different. It's worth watching, and it's worth wondering why he says those things. I think it's because he's going to have to try to survive this himself once the war is over, Brianna.
Yeah, maybe he's accidentally saying the truth there at some points, or on purpose. General, I mentioned there at the top of the show, you heard Putin threatening today that the use of nuclear weapons undoubtedly is theoretically possible for Russia. It's not that we didn't know that, but the fact that he's saying it is certainly newsworthy. He said the first nuclear warheads have also been delivered to Belarus. How concerning is this saber rattling about nuclear weapons?
It's taken a different turn in the last couple of weeks, I think, Brianna. Steve would probably be better from an analytical standpoint. But the fact that there has been this alleged transfer of tactical nuclear weapons from Russia to Belarus under Mr. Lukashenko, and even watching their conversations over the last few days, Putin says, oh, no, we still control all those weapons we're giving them. Lukashenko says, oh, no, I get to use them whenever I want, when I put them on my airplanes, and these things will be hugely dangerous for all of NATO. So you're seeing this dynamic of confusion, or perhaps planned confusion, to attempt to make the West blink again. Now, we can't say that they are not going to use nuclear weapons, but they have not shown themselves to be able to want to do that because they're fearful of the repercussions. But this most recent issue of transfer to Belarus, I think, might give the Russians and Mr. Putin a little bit of plausible deniability of what might happen in the future. And I still think we have to be very concerned about the use of nukes.
Yeah, Steve, how are you seeing this?
Well, it was interesting. The Secretary of State today said he still sees no indication that the Russians are preparing or intend to use nuclear weapons. So, he's a senior consumer of intelligence. So understandably, he has information that would cause him to say things like that. Putin himself has said, well, only if, Russian territory or existence is threatened. But really, I think that the most successful use of these nuclear weapons, and by the way, we don't know how many of them still work. We thought it was a great army before it went into Ukraine, didn't end up so well. So who knows how many of these things work? That said, it doesn't take many. The best use of this for Putin right now is exactly how he's using them, for psychological and propaganda purposes, because he knows we get worried in the West when he starts doing the nuclear saber rattling thing.
Yeah, certainly do. Hard not to. General, Steve, thank you so much to both of you for your analysis this evening.